talking with Peter Harper, General Manager of the Temora Aviation Museum. Peter, it's been an interesting few months with the COVID-19 situation. You've basically been shut, haven't you, up until now, and it's now late June.
Yeah, absolutely, Stuart. We closed. It was late March from memory. The world was rapidly changing and evolving by the day. We firstly made the decision to cease our volunteer program, and that was due to a lot of our volunteers being in that high risk category. But that was soon followed by a pretty clear directive from our state government that we were forced to close. And to be honest, at that point, given the information and the facts and that we were keeping ourselves abreast of, that it's probably a decision we would have made anyway. But yeah, we closed our doors, and like many organisations and businesses, that was the first time we had been closed for what ended up being just over 2 months. So it was quite different around here to be closed to the public for that amount of time. Naturally, any events we had on scheduled for that period were cancelled as well. So to close our doors to the public and also stop flying activity for that length of time. In fact, we haven't had a flying event here at Temora since November 2019. So again, that's unprecedented that we've gone almost 9 months now without any flying activity. But unprecedented events, and we kind of have to go with the government recommendations.
Well, yes, you do. But now you are open again to a limited extent under the easing of the restrictions. So as it stands now in late June, what can people who might want to come to Temora expect?
Yeah, look, we are open and happy to take visitors. There are some mandated processes that we have to adhere to. Capturing people's details as they come through our door. There's lots of social distancing measures in place, sanitising, signage. So we've complied with all of that. But visitors can come to the museum on any day again, which is fantastic. We have guided tours happening again. Unfortunately, we haven't got any events. We still have one event scheduled for later in August this year. That's still pending. We're just still monitoring and gathering information as the government eases restrictions. We're hopeful the August event can go ahead, although it will most likely be limited. Will be limited to numbers. What they are, we're under stage 2 restrictions. It's limited to 500, including staff and volunteers. But hopeful that those limits and the restrictions might be eased even further come later in August this year.
Well, that leads very neatly into a question that many people who are fans of this place are wondering and asking, and that is Warbirds Dowunder,
yes,
which is scheduled for October at the moment. Can you give me a bit of a status update on what may or may not be happening there?
Yes, sure. So that event was well into the planning phase. The tickets were already on sale. In fact, they were on sale before Christmas 2019. So we had already sold a bunch of tickets. The event, as it stands today, it hasn't been cancelled or postponed. We have gathered information. Myself and Murray Keir, our CEO, we've put together a discussion paper, if you like, for our governing committee to consider. So as you can imagine, for an event like that, there's so many things to consider, and it's difficult to put it all in context because we actually don't know what the restrictions level's going to be come October. So, but we've put our best thoughts into a discussion paper for the governing committee to consider, and we have a meeting which is next Friday. So that, from memory, is the 29th of June, I believe. And that's where a decision will be made on both the August event, but more importantly, the Warbirds Dowunder 2020 event. Options are naturally to run the event. That will depend on what the restrictions are at the time. Postponement of that event, and there's a few options for postponement. It could be earlier 2020, it could be a full calendar year. Sorry, yeah, it's early 21. It could be a full calendar year later, as in October 21, or it could be even another date. These are all the unknowns at the moment, but that recommendation and discussions will happen at the governing committee meeting next week, and once we have a decision, there will be a decision made in a week's time, and as soon as we have that, we'll certainly be putting that information out to the public, because there has been lots of inquiries, as I'm sure you could appreciate.
So the bottom line is stay tuned. Stay
tuned, and I know that there may be some frustrations about that, but yes, stay tuned, and within a week or so we'll certainly put some information out, and we'll have a way forward, one way or the other.
Well, that's an unfortunate event, the COVID thing, that's affected you and so many thousands of other businesses and people, but we're now approaching the first anniversary of another rather significant event in the museum's history, and that is the gifting of a large number of the fleet to the Royal Australian Air Force. There may be some people who don't quite understand why that happened and how it works, so I wonder if you could briefly explain that.
Yeah, sure. So the gifting of the historic fleet of aircraft here at Temora over to the RAAF, or effectively the Commonwealth, was really, it was a move to secure the longevity of not only the collection, it's such a historically significant collection of aircraft, but also the longevity and the future of the Temora Aviation Museum. And as you mentioned, we're all but 12 months into that relationship with the RAF. There's been lots of speed humps along the way in the last 12 months, but it's very refreshing to work with the RAF. They're working really hard to make sure this partnership, this relationship works, as we are here at Temora. It's foreign territory for them in a lot of ways, and also for the museum. This is a different way of doing business for us. But hey, at the end of the day, it's working. I was going to say the aircraft are still flying. Naturally, they're not at the moment, but that's due to COVID. We're very keen to when we can, to get the aircraft back into the air and flying and displaying for the public, not only here at Temora, but at other events all over the East Coast, Victoria, and as recent as November last year, we were across at Edinburgh. So look, the aircraft are still flying, they're still displaying, they're still here for everyone to come and enjoy, and I think it's been a fantastic move for the museum, but probably more importantly the collection of aircraft, which I know has a soft spot in a lot of people's hearts.
Well, there's a couple of the aircraft that you're restoring or returning to airworthiness at the moment. One of them is the Vampire, of course, and the other one is the Canberra, which does evoke emotions in quite a few people. And extraordinarily, it's now 10 years since the Canberra last flew.
Yes.
Which is incredible how quickly that's gone.
Yep.
Now, that's an aeroplane that a lot of people are interested in particularly, so perhaps you could give us an update on the status of where that's at and what's been happening with the Canberra.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a very broad status there, because I know you're catching up with our Chief Engineer, Andrew Bishop, and he will go into a lot more detail, but essentially the airframe inspection is completed. Engines have arrived from the UK. They've been fitted. Testing has been happening here at the museum over the almost 4 weeks now. Been lots of noise, which is fantastic to hear again.
Yep.
But that aircraft is at a point where I believe Andrew's quite comfortable with the testing of the engines at the moment. So that project is really moving into the final phases of returning to the air. We're now starting to look forward and trying to lock in some dates for first flights and things like that. Still some things to happen between now and then, but it's exciting to see that most likely before the year's out, we will have a Canberra bomber flying well after 10 years of not flying. So quite exciting times here at the museum.
That'll make a lot of people very happy.
Yes.
And the vampire's not too far behind either.
Yeah, the vampires, naturally the Canberra has taken some precedence, but at the same time, the vampire's been progressing in the background, and it's going to be soon to follow. So, look, perhaps even before the year's out, we'll also have a vampire return to service. So.
I understand that the Canberra and the Vampire weren't part of the gifting arrangement with the RAAF, but they will be handed over to the RAF.
Correct.
Once they're up and running.
Yeah. So not part of the initial handing over, but they were certainly noted in the agreement. The museum had already committed to the restoration projects for both those aircraft, so we agreed to see those two aircraft through to the final completion of the restorations and return to service. So once that happens, those two aircraft, which are both historically significant, will be added to the collection that the RAF will essentially take ownership of.
Well, we're all looking forward very much to things getting back to normal and aeroplanes flying again at Temora, but visitors can come to Temora still and look at the exhibitions. Peter Harper, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Stuart. Appreciate it.